Good morning and welcome to West Church. Today we celebrate that we are 11 years old, and as we do so, we also remember 9/11 and all of those whose lives were lost and the families that were impacted by that and how it changed our world. It's always been bittersweet that West was given birth to on such a tragic weekend, and so we want to be mindful that as we celebrate who we are as a church and who God is calling us to be, that we are mindful that tragic things happen in our world, which actually it fits into our theme for today. We're going to talk about transformation, whole body transformation, and what that looks like for us. That's the whole purpose of having a spiritual life, not to live by a bunch of rules and laws and dogma, but instead to be transformed so that we can live a little bit of heaven here on earth. So I'm really glad that you're checking us out this morning. If you're new here, we have a gift for you. We invite you to text the word welcome to the number that you see on the screen, 704-343-8955, 704-343-8955. We're so glad you're here, and we hope you find today meaningful. So, Dr. Jones, or Mr. Jones, and Dr. Lynch, it's so nice to have you join us here today at our medical practice, Total Body Transformation. So, Mr. Jones, Dr. Lynch, and I are here to serve you today. What is it that you come to see us for?
Dr. Smith, thank you so much for seeing me today. I've pretty much had it. You're the last place that I thought I could turn.
Well, that's what happens sometimes. We seem to be the place of the last ditch effort.
Well, first off, before we get into my health concerns, can I just get something off my chest?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I just need to say that I am so tired of the way people treat me. I give and I give and I give, and I feel like nothing I do is ever enough.
So, you feel like you give and give and give and nothing's ever enough? Tell me more about that.
My parents are relentless. No, it's okay. My parents are relentless. They are older. I try to go see them at least once a month. And do you know what they fuss about that? I don't come enough. Never mind, I have a full-time job, 3 kids, a wife, and they live 2 hours away. So that's 4 hours round trip.
So you're frustrated because you feel like they're not caring about your needs?
Exactly. I'm doing the best I can, but it seems it's not good enough.
Okay, well, what else?
I'm to the point of not even going at all. I'm thinking about just saying, forget you. You don't seem to give a crap about my life. Why should I give a crap about yours?
Okay, well, that's a pretty harsh reaction to your parents telling you that, they wish they saw you more. Okay. What else?
Then there's work. Let me just start with work. I mean, I've been waiting for a promotion for years, and I'm the one who deserves it.
But you think you deserve it?
I know I deserve it.
All right, there you go.
They always seem to give it to the new up-and-comer. It's getting old.
So you're watching to see if what you get and if you're appreciated and all that kind of stuff.
Very much so. I'm looking out. And
That's
I'm,
good.
I'm looking at everybody in the office, and they have no idea the value they have in me.
Okay.
I'd like to see some of these young men and women do the work that I do. I would work circles around them.
All right. Well, so you're frustrated with your parents and you feel like they don't appreciate you. You're pretty much monitoring the entire situation at work, and you feel like you're never appreciated enough. And so that's made you a little bitter, and you're being a little judgmental towards your fellow colleagues. And is that all that's bothering you?
No.
No. There's more.
And you'd think my wife, you'd think being at home, my wife would give me a break with everything. But no, it doesn't matter how hard I work. There's always something more that she wants or needs. Everyone seems to think I'm the problem. And I just wish they'd look in the mirror, and why can't they figure out that they are the issue and not me?
So everyone else is the issue.
Exactly. That's what I see. That's what I'm seeing with my eyes.
Okay. Well, You have come to the right place.
Good.
You are not the first patient that we've had that comes here and thinks everybody else is the problem and that they're all good. That's why it's called Whole Body Transformation Medical Practice. And Dr. Lynch and I, we have this surgery that if you will allow us to do this surgery on you, we 100% guarantee that you will come out of this surgery and all those things. Now, if you'll let us do the surgery and do some transplants, you'll come out of this surgery and all the things that you see and you feel and you're thinking and you're doing, they will be different, but it's going to be up to you.
Whoa. Surgery. Surgery means cost. What's the cost for this?
Well, unfortunately, there's no insurance that you can file for this type of surgery. Although some people think that there is, there's no like life insurance policy that we get by following Jesus. The kind of surgery that we're going to do today, the cost really, it's all up to you. For some people, when they come into this surgery and they're willing to let us do a few transplants, once they really face all the difficulties that come with the transplants happening, they see that it is pretty costly and they're not willing to pay for it, even though the rewards that come far outweigh the cost. But they're not willing to be all in. But the people that really come in and they are willing to say, hey, here I am, all this stuff about my life, it really bites right now and I'm really struggling. Can you help me see, think, feel, act, speak, hear differently? If you'll turn it over to us, and we ultimately turn it over to a much higher power than we are, if you'll turn it over to us, even though the cost may seem high to you, you'll be willing. But I have to tell you, if you're willing to do that, it's going to cost you everything.
Well, if the reward is worth that cost and it comes out that good, I'm all in.
Okay. All right.
All in.
I am a little surprised. Very good. Dr. Lynch and I will get the ER or OR set up and we will begin our surgery. Thanks for believing in us. All right, Dr. Lynch, here we are with Mr. Jones. He seems to be doing well, don't you think?
He's all right.
He does have quite a bit of work to do. It seemed like the more he told us what his problems were, I thought, well, that's going to be another thing we need to address. And, so it started out I thought, well, maybe if we look at his eyes and take a look at them and see what's wrong, that'll be all we have to deal with. But seems like there's more than just his eyes for us to look at. So we'll get started this morning with his eyes and let's just take a look. He was talking about his parents and his colleagues and his boss, and he just seemed to look at every situation in life almost as if people owed him something. And he was seeing, in my opinion, all the negative and not looking at situations with potential good. Like his parents, they're elderly and they say to him, I miss you. I wish you would come see us more than once a month. What he is seeing is him not being enough. But maybe instead of seeing that he's not enough, what if he looked at it from the perspective of, oh my gosh, they love me and they miss me. So instead of having eyes that see the negative, what if we could get rid of these diseased eyes and give them some eyes that look at every single situation, not as, oh my gosh, this bites and why is this happening to me? But go and look at every situation with, all right, this is challenging, but what can I learn from it? And how can I be different if I live through it? Every situation. We think that when we have new transformation because we love God or love or follow Jesus, we think life's supposed to be easy. And we look at situations and we think, because I'm living a good life or because I love God or love other people, everything's supposed to be easy for me. And, actually it's quite the contrary. Jesus looked and saw the good in all people. But because he looked and saw the good in all people, it did not mean that his life was easy. And so let's take a look at his eyes. And you know, I think maybe let's just take off these diseased eyes. You know, Dr. Lynch, as we took off his diseased eyes, look at how beautiful his eyes are. And they're so clear. You know, Jesus says, if we look through eyes of light, then all the darkness, it fades away. So I find it really interesting that when we took off the looking through eyes of anger and disappointment, clearly, you know, Mr. Jones has just been hurt throughout his life, and he takes things that people say to him really, really seriously, and he sees the situations as negative, and he has allowed his hurt and his disappointment in himself and his ability to see, he's let it get distorted. So if he will look through eyes with clarity and see that people love him, and see that hurting people hurt people. So if people are hurting him, then they're acting out of their own stuff, that it's not always all about him. If he'll look with eyes of clarity and look with eyes of love, he will have eyes to see that the pain and the resentment that he feels, it doesn't have to be his reality.
Good job, doctor.
Thank you. All right. So next, it's a little bit of a bigger challenge. He seems to think about things a lot. Have you ever heard the phrase, he gets in his own head?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think he gets in his own head. So I was thinking, what if we take out the center that controls our thoughts, and what if we give him a new brain?
That's a great idea.
We'll see. We'll see how our handy-dandy tool works. All right, let's... All right. Look at his brain.
Disgusting.
It is disgusting.
It's
You
so
can
rotten.
see. Do you see how clouded and just diseased that it looks?
It's got to go.
You think so?
Yeah.
You don't think we can just smooth it over a little?
I don't think after hearing him, no.
Okay. All right.
Let's fix it.
Well, let's go see if we can find a new brain.
All right.
All right. So, Dr. Lynch, you see that the brain that we're getting ready to put in, it's fresh, it's clear, and it's not been marred by his fear and all the negative experiences that he's had. But we can put this brain in there, but unless he really starts to intentionally make some steps toward being transformed, the same old things are going to happen. So that's why what we read and what we study, meditation and prayer, yoga, there are some things that he really can start doing with his life. I would encourage him to be a part of a small group, just a sense of community with some people that are willing to talk about and explore faith. It doesn't mean he has to know all the right answers. He doesn't have to know everything about faith to get started. It's all about a journey. And, there's this awakening that's happening in our world right now with religion, and it's so much more about spirituality and growth with God than just religion and rules and who's out and who's in. So I am so hopeful that if we put in this brain and he'll join a small group, be present in worship, either at an online campus or an in-person campus, and I know a really great church that we could recommend to him. If he will read some things by Richard Rohr or Brian McLaren or some other famous authors, I really think he can experience just this whole transformation. So let's put his new brain in. And just know that it's going to take effect because he's going to be willing to make these changes. And as he makes these changes, the things that come out of his mouth, they're going to be so different. Transformation is evident by the things that we say. And the things that we say, they're reflected by what goes on in here and in here, and we're going to deal with that in just a minute. But, in looking at his lips, they're really perfectly formed. They don't seem to have anything negative going on with them. And I've never had this in this area, but I hear that Botox in the lips, it like makes them bigger and fluffier and able to like articulate so much better. Like there's this star on TV, Lisa Rinna. She's famous for her puffy lips. So we are going to give Botox to Mr. Jones. I've made him a doctor multiple times this morning. We're going to give him some Botox, and I believe that he is going to have new fluffy lips that enable him to talk about all the good that has happened in his life. Now, along with talking, his ear, what he hears, that's equally as important. And his ear, it's diseased and it's upside down. Religion sometimes gets so negative in our minds. Jesus came and he turned religion upside down. So what I would like for us to do to Mr. Jones is I would like for us to take out his diseased upside down ear. I would like for us to give him a new ear so he can hear with clarity and a fresh perspective, that he sees differently, he thinks differently, and maybe he'll start hearing things that once seemed negative. He'll hear them differently, and there'll be words of grace and words of love. So let's get that ear off, okay? All right, Dr. Lynch, we have a fresh ear. Look, it's like all clean and stuff. No long-term earwax buildup that's keeping him from hearing things in a better way. So I tell you what, I'm going to insert the new ear. And look, it is a perfect fit. He's going to hear things so differently and with such clarity. I think just by hearing and thinking and seeing alone, he's going to just feel so much better. And his life is going to have a new perspective. Even when he encounters negativity, he's going to see it differently, hear it differently, and most importantly, think about it differently. All right, now, I wanted us to check out his arm, because you see, like, we can't just let it all be inside of us. We have to do something. Like, I wonder how many times he embraces others, whether it's physical or embraces them with his love and generosity. Like, it sounded to me, especially when he was talking about his colleagues and his boss, it's always all about him. Mm-hmm. Entitlement is not like a way to a happy and whole life. When we look at things always about us, we need to be reaching out, and that involves like healthy, strong arms. So let's check out his arm. Look at it. See what you think. Well, there's the problem. He's missing it completely. He is not using his arm, and it has just fallen completely off.
We need to give him a new arm.
A brand new arm, a whole arm. And I bet you happen to have, look, a brand new arm. Well, let's just install this. And look how far he can reach out to others. That may seem hokey, but really, like, I have T-Rex arms. He has a heck of an arm. And if he will use this arm to reach out to others, whether he knows them or not, and offer them love and kindness and grace and his generosity, it's going to change everything. So let's see if we can get this arm installed. There we go. Look at that. It even bends.
Great.
He is ready to reach out to others. Well, let's check out his feet, because if he's going to have the arm, he's going to have feet to carry him to places he may not want to go. You know, that's all throughout the Bible. It's actually one of the stories about Jonah and Job. They had to go into situations that they would have never chosen. Like Job, everything he loved, it disappeared. And Jonah, there's this whole metaphor of being consumed by a whale and living in the whale. You know, that is actually a story or a metaphor about going where we don't want to go and experiencing death while we are inside of there. And if you look at this foot, it is nasty, and it needs to experience some death. Like, it's totally done. So let's see, can we do a whole foot transformation? just like every great surgeon, they use tape, clear tape, and it's going to make this foot stick, and he's going to be able to walk and go. You know, before I started my career in medicine, which I feel confident will be a short career, I went to places like Mandeville, Jamaica. And everybody's like, oh, you're going to Jamaica? What's the good of that? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, the poverty there is just astronomical. And we did mission trips there. We built community with them over like 12 years. I got to volunteer at some churches and do that. And, you know, when there was an intentional partnership that was being built, they ended up like coming up with like a self-sustaining micro business model. They built a furniture factory, and it employed the hearing impaired people in the country, because the government in Jamaica does not offer like school and resources for those who are born deaf or hearing impaired. And so this group of people in Virginia started a nonprofit called the Caribbean Center for the Deaf. They have campuses all over the island, and the church that I volunteered at, they were willing to go year after year after year and partner with this deaf village. They built a factory, a furniture factory. They made beautiful wood bowls, and then we helped them get their goods in like the little tourist shops in downtown Montego Bay. It changed their lives. The first time that I had to go on the mission trip, I cried like 2 weeks before I left, because I had a 1-year-old, and it was going to be the first time I ever left my son. And I dreaded it. I didn't want to go. I had the crappiest attitude. But once I let my feet carry me where I didn't want to go, the change that happened in my heart, it changed me for 25 years now. And now I really do look for new ways for us to like see how we can serve in other parts of the world. And it's just life-changing. And, you know, it doesn't have to be the other part of the world. Like Third Creek, I mean, one of the missions that West Church supports, we went there for the open house, and you could just see they need a church. They need some people to love them. And so West Church is, over the next couple of years, going to be really intentional about letting our feet take us up 77. It's not that far away, and be in ministry with them. So I bet Dr. Jones is going to help us.
He's in great shape now to go serve.
Good. Yay. All right. Let's tackle the last thing then. I have my handy dandy stethoscope.
Let's check out his heart.
That's pretty bad. I don't hear a good heartbeat at all. Yeah, let's use the fancy. Oh, good. All right. Ooh. I'd hoped that we'd be able to do like a bypass, you know, and just, you know, bypass a few things. But I'm going to tell you, just by looking in there, it looks pretty hard. And that's what happens when we live life and we let the pain and the negative experiences that we have taint us. If we're not careful, it just makes our hearts so hard that we find it almost impossible to experience joy. So instead of bypass, I really just think we need to take the whole thing out and see what happens. Dr. Lynch, I really believe that the teachings of Jesus are true, and that in order to have new life, first we have to experience death. He showed us the best way to do that. And it was not just with a physical death, it was a death to himself and his ego. I mean, who else can give completely of their lives, give of themselves the entire time, be persecuted for that, be ridiculed for that, and ultimately killed? And as he was experiencing that death, he said things like, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. So he looked at it from their perspective and not just his. He asked for forgiveness, he asked for mercy, and ultimately he surrendered himself to love and showed us all what it means to love selflessly and sacrificially. And it was in that death that he experienced resurrection, not resuscitation, not bringing him back to life, but a whole transformation. Resurrection is a transformation. He had a new form, a new body. And we're hoping to resuscitate Mr. Jones. But with that resuscitation, if this new heart takes effect, and if his body accepts this new heart, then he will live a life of love, and he will be completely transformed. Let's keep our fingers crossed that his body accepts this new organ. He made it! Huh! His heart has been accepted by his body, and all the other transplants, like, they're here. So he is going to have this whole new life ahead of him. It's still going to have some bad things that happen, but because he's going to be able to see them differently and hear them differently and think about them differently, because he's going to be grounded in a place of love and a place of grace and a place of acceptance and offering forgiveness to others. It's going to change everything, because his heart now, it is all engulfed and based in love. It's no longer hard. How is your heart hard today? Like, do you have negativity that you're feeling towards anyone? Let it go. How can you use your feet and your hands to go extend love and grace to people both you know and that you don't know? How can you hear things differently? Words that others say to you, maybe remember it's not about you. That it's out of their stuff, their ick, sometimes their own pain, and maybe even their own self-centeredness and egocentrism. Hear their words from wherever they are coming from and understand it's not about you. So then we can hear them with grace and eyes that see the world and all of its beauty, even in the crappiest circumstances. There's always beauty to be found. We just have to look, and we have to think. We have to think like Jesus would think. And he offered ultimate love. Dr. Jones has had a transformation. Well done, Dr. Lynch. I think you passed your residency school. All right, let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for being a God of transformation. And no, we aren't like the mannequin here, but there are some similarities. We hear things wrong. We look out for number one, being ourselves instead of others. We think about things only from our perspective, and we're not willing to be generous and gracious with the way that we live our lives. God, help us to see and think and feel, hear and touch and go differently. May we all be transformed. And thank you for a church named West that for 11 years has sought to do just that. Exciting times, and the best is yet to come. Be our God and guide us in and through all things. In Christ's name, amen. I hope you have a great week. Go in peace.